Good morning, fans. How the devil are you? I hope you're well. I hope you're good. How's your weekend been so far? We sneaked past Walsall yesterday. We're through to the next round of the FA Cup. That's all that matters. But it's Sunday. It's 10 a.m. It's time for the famous Foxes Aftermath show run by the fans, for the fans. And you know what? Your opinion really does matter. So come on, let's get them comments in. Come on, let's get going. Come on, you Foxes.
Welcome to Leicester Fan TV. Are you ready for the show? Thanks to our sponsors, ADT Taxis, Everards, Pukka Pies, Pink Car Leasing, Leicester Riders, Hollogram, The Fox's Arms, Peter's Pizzeria, Hope Against Cancer, and Newby Co estate agents. We want your views, we want your comments, so join us live. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Yes, good evening, Josh. Sorry, I forgot you watch from Australia. So it's afternoon, it's morning, afternoon, evening to everyone, wherever you are in the world. There's Josh in sunny Australia. It's warmer than it is here, that's for certain. Chris Tide says, morning, Jamie. I think we got lucky yesterday, but are we getting Tete? The future looks bright. Well, you know what? We can ask Charlie Carmichael from Give Me Sports and The Guardian today on that very question. Morning, Charlie. How are you, pal?
Morning, Jamie. I'm good, thanks, mate. How are you?
I'm fine, matey. So, what do you think? Is Tete coming in? Has he passed? According to him, he's passed his medical. So, do you think it'll be announced today?
Yeah, I mean, it looks that way, doesn't it? Flew in yesterday, passed his medical supposedly in the morning, or while we were playing Walsall, at least. The initial report seems to say it's a loan deal. I don't know whether there's an obligation to buy or an option to buy attached to that. Or whether it's kind of similar to sort of the Lookman setup, you know, it's hard to tell. But initially, it seemed like it was going to be a permanent transfer, and then that's changed for one reason or another. I'm not entirely sure why, but you know.
I think it's got something to do with the Ukraine, hasn't it? That Shakhtar sent him to Lyon because they suspended his contract. It's all very complicated, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a really difficult transfer to work out, just because we've had to negotiate essentially with two clubs. You know, Lyon were entitled to some form of compensation simply because they had him on loan, or were meant to have him on loan to the end of the season, and then had an option to buy on him as well. So we've had to almost negotiate him out of that deal with Lyon, and then negotiate separately with Shakhtar to get this loan deal over the line. But it certainly looks promising, and someone we've been crying out for a while.
Since Riyad Mahrez, haven't we, really? Because we haven't had that one. We've had Under, we've had Lookman, we had Dibati. We haven't really had a quality. Who else did we have? Gazelle. Oh, God, I forgot about it. Rashid Gazelle. We haven't really had that man to outtake him. Do you think? I mean, I've seen his YouTube package. I bet you have as well. Do you think he's the man to take that place on the right wing?
Well, it's difficult to say. I mean, I think it's certainly a step up. I mean, Diabate was such an unknown raw quantity. You know, Under, I was probably the most excited about Under. Gazelle kind of looked, you know, other than just looking like a bit like Riyad Mahrez, I'm not sure why else he was signed. But yeah, I mean, Under excited me, but obviously he failed to live up to the hype, and you know, he had a lot of injury issues, so that was disappointing. And obviously Lookman, it seemed odd. Seemed like we needed a right winger in, and Rodgers brought in someone that he clearly felt more comfortable playing on the left wing, who was pushing Barnes. And now you look at what he's doing at Atalanta now, it just looks like an absolute nightmare that we haven't.
He scored again last night, didn't he? I think that's something like 14 goals he's got now, and 7 in his last 3 or 4, I think it is, something like that.
Yeah, second top goal scorer in the Italian league. So, and painfully, this hot run of form that he's on at the minute, he's doing it all from the right-hand side. So just to add salt into the wounds.
Ant Burren says, Tete looks good on FIFA. I think they all look good on FIFA, don't they, pal?
Yeah, well, yeah, it's... It'd be interesting, you know. Obviously, it's our first ever Brazilian player, so that's always exciting. You know, they come with that sort of pedigree and that reputation for sort of, you know, Brazilian flair and samba, kind of Jogo Bonito style of football. So, yeah, more than excited to see him hit the ground running. And I've seen a few people talk. It's not necessarily that he needs to set the world alight. It just needs to be better than what we've currently got, and that shouldn't be too difficult.
No, considering we've been playing Maddison, Pratt, and Perez there, as much as I like them, they're not the right wingers we are looking for, are they?
No, and it'd be interesting to see what happens, because obviously Rodgers has kind of been wedded to this 4-3-3 formation for a while now. Now, whether that involves James Maddison dropping back into a number 8 role, or whether he reverts then back to the sort of 4-2-3-1 and Maddison kind of takes up his more customary number 10 position, it'll be interesting to see how he works it out.
Yeah. We'll come back onto transfers in a bit, lads and lasses. We're going to talk about the Warsaw game yesterday. That's what we're going to start with. It was a good people were asking about Tete straight up. We thought we'll get that out of the way. Yesterday, did you manage to see any of it yesterday, Charlie?
Yep. Yeah, I watched the game.
I'm going to go straight in with a kill. What did you think of Victor Christiansen?
Yeah, I liked him. I thought the first couple of touches were a little dodgy, but then after he sort of found his footing into the game, he looked really competent. Some nice overlapping runs to support Barnes, put in a great ball for KDH, who obviously just sort of scuffed the finish wide. Couple of decent tackles as well. It's hard to tell from a 30-minute cameo on your debut when you're playing a 4th division side, but it certainly looked, pretty impressive to me.
He did. I mean, when I saw him, he literally within 30 seconds, his first run was an overlapping run, and I don't think Dewsbury knew what to do, because we hadn't seen a left fullback do that. Normally, it's these inverted fullbacks that come inside. To see an overlapping fullback it's quite an interesting thing. Now it's going to be another dimension to our game, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think something that impressed me as well is just his calmness and composure on the ball. He picked out a couple of really nice passes. How many times have we seen it this season and last where they sort of form a U shape, the back line, and it's just going back and forth from left back to right back, left back to right back. But Christiansen, managed to sort of, play a nice few progressive balls, get the ball forward, always looking to play, positively. So that was really encouraging to see.
Yeah. Oh, just 1 minute. Craig, happy 19th wedding anniversary today. I haven't sent you a message yet, but congratulations, pal. 19 years. That's a little bit of a life sentence, but 19 years is a good one, pal. Is a good one. Congratulations, pal. Yeah, I thought Nacho, I've always sort of had a little bit of I'm not the biggest of Rodgers' fans, to be honest, Charlie. I've always had a little bit of a go at him for tactical substitutions, but I think yesterday he got it spot on, didn't he, when he brought Nacho on? Yeah,
I think there was a few eyebrows raised as to why Iheanacho wasn't starting the game, and I think quite a few people, myself included, have been calling for a front 2 system for a while, just because Jamie Vardy's been getting on a bit. Patson Daka seems to struggle as a lone striker, and Iheanacho does as well. He seems far more comfortable with a partner, and even Daka, when he was at RB Salzburg, was playing with a sort of partner as well, and looked far more comfortable in that formation. So I would have thought
Haaland? He was playing with Haaland, wasn't he, up top?
He's at Haaland's kind of understudy for a while, played a few times together, and then obviously when Haaland moved on, he formed a new partnership. But I feel like Iheanacho and Daka would probably get more out of each other's game if they were partnered up top together. Now, obviously, that would be compromising the formation, which we know Brendan Rodgers doesn't like to do. So it seems unrealistic to assume that. But it was good to see Iheanacho come on. He's obviously, Mr. FA Cup, absolutely loves it. 17 goals now since he made his debut in the competition. So,
17 in 23 altogether. And do you know that was his 50th goal yesterday in 191 games for Leicester?
Yeah, no, a decent return as well, considering, how many times he's having to come off the bench as well, rather than start games, the odd appearance here and there, never really got to. The one time we've kind of seen him build up that head of steam was when we had the injury crisis and we were playing 2 up front, and he obviously entered that, massive purple patch of form. So it's always been a bit of a mystery with Iheanacho. Rodgers, for one reason or another, doesn't quite rate him, whether that's because, he doesn't press as aggressively or run in behind like Vardy and Daka do. Rodgers only knows the answers to that. But he certainly deserves more game time in my eyes.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure Patrick's got it right. I think he's a bit better than a Sunday morning standard player for the dog and gun. I don't think he's better than that. But yeah, it literally, in my mind, there was more positives than there was negatives. Normally, it's quite the other way around with me. But literally, we've got the clean sheet. Madder's got a decent 60 minutes out of it. Christensen got 30 minutes. Next round of the cup, we grew stronger, didn't we? We didn't start the best, did we? Warsaw I would say Warsaw were better for the first 15, 20 minutes. But then we grew into the game. But the only 2 negative I've got is the missed penalty. And we don't take a chances, Charlie, do we? We don't take a chances to kill them off.
I think that's probably where some of the comments, frustration centered towards Daka is coming. He had a lot of shots yesterday, and very, very few of them on target. But I mean, you couldn't fault his effort. You know, he was running around, he was creating space for people, he was giving it his all. You know, his confidence is clearly low at the minute. It's not quite clicking for him. He is a bit of a diamond in the rough. I feel like, you know, there is more to come from Patson Daka. There, you know, if he was playing in a team where everyone around him was buzzing and everyone was playing really well, then, you know, would it be a different scenario? Would he be scoring more goals? Probably. But yeah, I mean, the start of that game was a bit shaky. I mean, right from the kickoff when Wildface kind of got closed down and then we got put on the back foot straight away. It was a bit of a worry, but thankfully managed to kind of grow into the game steady, started to control possession a bit, get a few shots off, and then grew from there.
Yeah. Morning, Councillor. We were enjoying a League Two. Yes, I know we were playing a League Two team, Councillor, but I think we had to break them down. I think fitness proved towards the end, the last half an hour, that it proved what it is like when you play a low. You keep that score at 0-0, you're going to get your chances to win. And I don't think it was. I mean, I've been very critical of Rodgers, the performances of the team and Rodgers' tactics, but I think he got it right yesterday, actually, Charlie. He wore them down. They got frustrated. They got on. The crowd got quieter, and Leicester took over in the second half and took control. Yes, we didn't. We could have scored 3 or 4 quite easily. But I don't think it was a dismal performance like the councillor says, Charlie. Do you think that?
I think you could apply that to the first half. I think the first half was quite poor. They looked quite lackluster. Obviously, the anticipation, you know, the expectations rise when you play in a team, a starting lineup like that. You know, it was pretty much full strength. So to come out and not really make much of an impact in the first half was really disappointing. They clearly got a bit of a rocket up them at half time because they came out with a lot more tempo and a lot more intent in the second half. And second 45 minutes, I don't really have any complaints. Obviously, we got the penalty, which unfortunately was missed. You know, got the winner from Iheanacho and, you know, had a hatful of chances as well. So you could probably be critical of the finishing in the second half, but I thought the second 45 minutes overall was a much improved performance.
Daniel's just put 28 shots. I know they weren't all on target, but do you think there was that many shots on Leicester?
Yeah, I read a stat that this is the joint most shots we've ever had under Brendan Rodgers in a game.
Blimey.
We're tied with when we played Luton Town a couple of years ago.
Yeah, but didn't we beat them 4-0?
And the last time we had more shots than this in a game was when we won in the title-winning season. So,
Oh, I didn't know that. I didn't know that at all.
Impressive. Yeah, so it was nice to be creating chances again. I mean, certainly with Maddison out the team since after the World Cup, we've just looked nowhere even close to scoring a goal. So it's been like it was a nice last. Yes, I totally take the point that it's a 4th division team, but at least nice to see us creating chances.
Yeah, Nick Moore says, to be honest, Jamie, it was great. It wasn't great. It was just like the Gillingham game, but we'll take a win, which it is. In our situation, we'll take any win at the minute. I mean, we're in the last 16 of the FA Cup. I mean, everyone knows, if you saw me when we won the FA Cup, I love the FA Cup. I'm an old school, Charlie. The magic of the FA Cup is I've always grown up with the FA Cup, and it's gone a bit down in the players' estimations now. But fans like me and the older generation love the FA Cup. We're in the last 16 of the FA Cup. The Premiership team, I think there's 8 Premiership teams already out, and I think there's a couple more games today that could see Premiership teams out. We're still in the hat. We're in the hat, even though we haven't played at the best. It's just getting to the final, isn't it? And trying your best to get to the final and hopefully win it.
Yeah, I mean, I think our first priority at the minute has to be to just secure our Premier League status and stay in the division. That can't come at the expense of any other kind of objectives this season. But on the assumption that we can steady the ship, we get a couple more signings through the door and we start to sort of pull a bit clear of that trap door, then yes, obviously, I mean, this is going to be our best route into Europe this season. If we could potentially win the FA Cup again, that's obviously a huge ask, but we managed to do that. I see that as our only viable route into European competition next season, which would be amazing, obviously, to qualify again. But realistically, first and foremost, we just need to focus on not being in the bottom 3 come
17th. 17th will be perfect at the minute. Someone gave me 17th. I'd snap the hand off right at this moment, Charlie. Talking of Premiership football, we'll just move on to next week. A lot of comments have been 2 up top. Do you think we ought to... I know he means he might have to change his system, and I love a bit of old school 4-4-2. Everyone knows I love a bit of old school. I can't see Brendan Rodgers playing that, but do you think he can work into that scheme of playing 2 up top? Or, because Vardy is now injured, he's pulled a cheek muscle or gluteus maximus, whatever you want to call it, do you think we'll only play 1 up top?
I would love to see us play 2 up top. I don't think he will. I still very much expect him to stick with even with Daka. I don't expect him to play Iheanacho as a lone striker. He said before in press conferences that if he is to play a 2 up front, he'd have to play a back 3. He doesn't seem to think it's a viable option to play a back 4 and a front 2 for one reason or another. So, and then his reasoning for not playing a back 3 says he doesn't have the centre backs for it. Now we know that he's had a big bust up with Siunchu, doesn't want to play him. We know that he doesn't trust Yannick Vestergaard at all. So in his head, he's got, and with Johnny Evans out as well, in his head, he's got 2 centre backs who are viable to start. So he doesn't feel comfortable playing a back 3. So I'd be very surprised if we see it based on his comments in the past. But I would personally like to see it. Yeah.
Yeah. I love a 2 up top. I love big man, small man, which is like Matty Fight, Stevie Howard time. I know that fashion isn't there anymore. But the big man, small man, Alan Smith, Gary Lineker, same kind of thing. Big man, small man. It was great, but we don't play football, unfortunately, like that, do we? I got accused of being in the 60s yesterday on Twitter. My analysis of games was like being in the 1960s. I'm not even that old, so I can't be in the 60s. But anyway, we'll nip on to transfers now. You're sort of a man in the know. You're part of the media. There was a comment from one of your colleagues, I don't really know him, I can't pronounce his name, Tom Colimosi from the Daily Mail. I'm not sure whether I've pronounced that right. It says, Teti won't be the last, maybe a centre-back, versatile attacker or midfielder. Do you see 3 more signings before the transfer window on Tuesday, Charlie?
I think it'd be very difficult. I think that's obviously what, the ideal scenario. If we can bring in and reinforce, there's clearly, been a bit of panic instilled into the team pre-January in terms of the performances and what needs to be done. We've seen Rodgers bang on for God knows how many months about the recruitment now and the struggles that we faced there. Martin Glover, obviously our head of recruitment, not starting until after the summer transfer window was a massive hampering for us. So getting him in January and kind of making up for lost time. I'd be surprised if obviously Tete seems like he's, on the verge of signing. I'd be surprised if we don't see a centre-back come through the door. It looks to be Harry Souttar by all accounts. Whether there's a third one after that, I'm not entirely convinced, but we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, it'd be nice, wouldn't it, if we could get a centre half in that he wants to play in that position. There's been a couple of questions, Charlie. Hold on a minute. Where is it? The councillor has asked a couple of times, are you a Foxes fan? Please explain, Charlie. I know the answer, but go on from your own words.
Yes. Born and raised in Leicester, lived there till I was about 15 years old, then moved down the road to Rugby. Went to uni in Southampton and then across to London for work. Been living in London for about 6 years now. But yeah, born and raised in Leicester since I was about 15. My family have had a season ticket to the ground since I was about 2. How old was I? We had it at Filbert Street, but then I didn't go to many games back then, to be fair, because I was a bit too young. But since in the King Power, like I've been going to games or walkers before that. But Twitter handle is at CharlieJC93 if anyone's interested.
Yeah, there it is, Charlie. You've got a new follower straight away because you're a Leicester fan. The councillor. No one knows the councillor's name. That's the thing. He only ever comes up as the councillor, and we give him a salute for some reason. I don't know why. He keeps saying he's going to come on, but he never does. He keeps diverting. No, I'll come on another time. Craig Pearson says, hopefully a centre-back, yes. Souttar should be up next. There's been lots of talk about him, and he's out injured at the minute. Don't know whether that's a bit of a plan by Stokes. Don't want to get him injured. There's always this time of year, there's rumours about. I think Graham means Perez, not Perez. Have you heard anything about Perez? Because he wasn't in the squad, although Rodgers did say he was fit to play, and he wasn't there yesterday, or wasn't involved in the matchday squad. Have you heard anything? Because there was talk of him going Betis, Villarreal. What have you heard, pal?
Haven't heard anything in terms of outgoings. I mean, Siunchu, Pratt and Perez have all been told they're free to leave if they can find clubs. But, whether we're holding unrealistic asking prices with 6 months left on their contracts or whether no one's just interested in bidding to them when they know that they can get them for free in the summer. It's hard to say, but they've been told they can find new clubs they're welcome to. But there's no real sort of concrete interest materialised that I'm aware of. So
there's been a rumour overnight I woke up to that there's 20, again, paper talk and Twitter rumours, so it must be true if it's on Twitter. I'm not sure. It's the Torino centre-back, Pierre Schulo, I think his name is. It's a centre-half, but they want 28 million plus Dennis Pratt. I'm not quite sure that's right. That makes it about 35 million for a centre-half. That's a bit too much, isn't it, do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it was the first I'd heard of the rumours as well. Now, I don't know. Some people have been saying that he's already he was registered with another club prior to Torino at the start of the season, and you can register for 3 clubs, but you can only play for 2. So it wouldn't make sense for us to sign him because he would be ineligible essentially to play for the rest of the season. So yeah, I'm not.
You can get special dispensation, can't you? I did read that as well.
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure or clued up on the logistics of it all, but if that can be done, then great. I mean, Harry Souttar, can't say I've watched a lot of Stoke play this season, but he does look more kind of in the, at least he looks a bit like Maguire, with his big stature, and obviously sort of heads anything that moves that comes into the box, but how comfortable he is with his feet, or sort of tracking people and pace and tackling on the ground, I'm not entirely sure. He looks like someone who's very much going to add a lot of value from set pieces, but whether he can sort of help aid sort of progressive build-up play and passing out from the back and that, I'm not sure how comfortable he is with that. Whereas, the lad from Torino, obviously, he's come from Ajax before Torino, obviously very comfortable on the ball, but also very good in aerial duels. So certainly probably the better player of the 2, at least in terms of his pedigree. But obviously will command a much higher price tag as well.
See, like I keep saying, I keep going about old school, but I like my centre halves to head it out or lump it out. If in doubt, kick it into row Z. Instead of this tippy-tappy football in the corner, if you're in trouble, just kick it out and refresh and get your position set. That's what I want my centre halves to do, more than this Beckenbauer kind of thing, rolling up the pitch with the ball. A bit like, Amati did it a couple of times yesterday. I was quite surprised. He must have got a nosebleed going up that far with the ball. He doesn't normally go that far up. But that's what if a proper centre half wins the ball in the box and then just clears it, that's what I want to see. This one-touch football in the box does me no good, does my art no good whatsoever, Charlie.
Yeah, I mean, obviously it's instilled from Rodgers. That's the way he wants to play football. He wants possession-based football. I can't imagine we'd sign someone like Harry Souttar if he wasn't comfortable playing out from the back, just because Rodgers is naturally going to be asking him to do that. Amate's asked to do that, for God's sake, and we've all had our heart in our mouth, like you were saying, every time sort of Amate's under pressure, kind of last man in possession. So yeah, I'd be surprised. He's not going to come in and turn things around. In terms of Rodgers isn't going to rip up his coaching manual and start playing a different way at this stage. So yeah, it'd be interesting to see. I don't know whether sort of life post Rodgers, what that looks like, or indeed obviously when that'll be. But it'd be very interesting from a sort of board level recruitment position, whether we're going to get in another manager of the same ilk that likes to play this kind of like possession orientated football, or whether we're going to look to get someone in who's more kind of in the old school fashion, I guess. And the players that we sign now are probably indicative of the way we want to play, because these players will likely be here post Rodgers as well.
Well, yeah. And also, I find it difficult to... I don't know whether you heard the Kieran Maguire interview on the Big Strong Leicester Boys with Jake the other day, last week, sorry, that we're not as close to the financial fair play problems as everyone thinks.
Yeah, it was a really interesting podcast actually to hear that. I mean, I was a bit sort of had my jaw on the floor when I was told that the average salary at Leicester was 90 grand a week. I was thinking, Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
But yeah, and it was also reassuring to hear that if you do breach financial fair play rules, such like Wolves did, they kind of put their toe over the line. That it was a bit of a small fine. It was a slap on the wrist, but it wasn't anything major. Whereas I feel like we've kind of been led to believe that. If you breach those rules, then something could, there could be serious consequences of that. So I don't know whether the mindset's changed from our ends, because obviously we are now looking to actively progress sort of deals in the January transfer window, when not a lot has changed in terms of like income or revenue. The only thing that has changed is we seem to have taken out more loans. Obviously we had a loan in 2 installments for Fofana money, because Chelsea paying us in 3 installments. And we've also taken out a loan against our Premier League television rights till 2025, which does seem a bit of a high-risk strategy considering we're in a relegation battle. I'm sure it's been worked out by the club. I don't doubt that. But, if you were to get relegated and then still to owe a loan to a bank for Premier League television rights till 2025, that seems a bit risky. But obviously we've needed to get the money from somewhere in order to invest in January to give us the best possible chance.
Yeah, because we're talking quite a lot of money at the minute for us in particular. I mean, we bought Christensen for 15 million, I think it was. Tete is going to cost us a bit for the loan fee and maybe his wages. Suter. And also, we're looking at Jack Harrison as well from Leeds. He's a right winger, attacking right. Is he attacking right winger or attacking midfielder? I'm not 100% sure on that.
Yeah, he's a winger. He can play on either side. He's left-footed. Obviously, he had a bit of a unique journey in terms of English football. Obviously, coming through, he came through at New York City in MLS,
right.
and then moved across to England from there. Obviously, sort of through the City group to Manchester City, and then onto Leeds United, and obviously one of Jesse Marsh's American boys. So it's interesting to see. You know, obviously he's kind of built sort of less, I guess, technically gifted or tricky than a Tete is. He's more kind of athletic and, you know, strong, kind of raw pace and power. Certainly someone who can play on either side and sort of push both Tete and Barnes in terms of starting positions, which we've been crying out for, because obviously, you know, it's one thing signing a right winger and just having Barnes and Tete as designated players there, but you know, we don't have any backup. You know, you'd be looking to, like I said, you know, Perez or Brighton or playing Pratt or Maddison out of position. So if we did manage to get Harrison over the line, then I think that would really kind of bolster our options at least. And, you know, Barnes has been horribly out of form the last few games. You know, might put a bit of a rocket up him, you know, knowing that someone's waiting in the wings ready to take his position if he's not up to it. Yeah,
we seem to be, I mean, my missus gets fed up when I'm watching the football, because when Barnes gets the ball, I keep saying, drive, meaning drive to the byline. But he seems to get to the penalty box, edge of the penalty, and cuts in and plays a pass. But yesterday it was different. Whether it was because it was the standard of football, he was going to the byline and trying to put that cross in. But he seems to drive and then all of a sudden put the brakes on and play the ball sideways. And it's a bit like I've been saying for a while now. We seem to want the total football goal. You mentioned Ajax earlier. We seem to want the total and pass it into the back of the net. If we had a few more pops on goal, Barnes used to be able to do it. He used to come in and curl it and try and get it into the. I know Barnes is a big confidence player, but if you don't have a shot, there's not a chance of getting the second ball or anything like that. So I think Barnes is a huge confidence player, but I just wish he would drive a bit more to the byline like he was doing a couple of years ago.
Yeah, I was hoping that goal against Brighton would give him a bit of a confidence boost. You know, time will tell. We'll see how he turns out in the Villa game. But yeah, certainly. I mean, the misses that he obviously missed against Nottingham Forest were absolutely killer for us. And then, you know, even against Brighton, yes, he got the goal at the back post from the corner, but I thought he was generally very abject in that game. Didn't offer a lot at all. So yeah, it would be different. It would be difficult for us if Barnes isn't going to be firing. Then, you know, that's a huge blow for us. But you know, if we get someone like Tete in and he can supplement that. Also think Barnes suffers a little bit from the over reliance on the left hand side. You know, Maddison wants to come inside constantly and invert from that right wing position. So we don't really have, other than Castagna kind of bombing forwards, we don't really have that width on the right. So if we're trying to attack, a lot of the play does go down the left. And then obviously it's easy for a team to kind of figure that out and shift across accordingly. So having another threat on the right and having teams constantly guessing which channel we're going to exploit is only going to be a benefit to Barnes as well.
See, that's where I think Thomas has been left out to dry a bit, because you've got Harvey Barnes bombing down the left-hand side and cutting in. And you get a huge space, and the midfield is not coming across to cover it. I don't think Thomas is good enough to do them like the attacking defensive side of it, pushing. I think he's a good defender, but when it comes to going forward and covering that space, he's left a bit out to dry, I think. And I think this Victor Christensen will do the job. I think Thomas will be a good player, maybe a championship loan next year, but he's had 60-odd games in the Premiership and won an FA Cup medal and been in Europe. Is that right for Thomas, do you think? About time for him to go on loan to build up a bit?
I think so. I mean, Thomas seems like the sort of player that was kind of thrust into the limelight before his time anyway. You know, he was brought into the team initially during the first wave of Brendan Rodgers' injury crisis that's, you know, never really gone away and just carried on from season to season. But yeah, it was always clear, I think, for his development that the idea was to get him a loan, to get him to build up. But through one reason or another, obviously, mainly because of Ricardo and JJ's injuries, we've had to kind of throw him in at the deep end. And you know, he's done okay. You know, it's difficult because he's, you know, a homegrown lad, one of the academy, but he's clearly not quite of the level that we need him to be. So yeah, I think he would massively benefit from a loan deal, but we do need cover in that position before we can afford to send him out.
Yeah. Yeah, we do need cover, but like AD Garden's just said, how long before JJ due back? I'm not 100% sure. I don't think it'll be till next season. But if you think of the list we've now got Victor Christensen, Castagna, Ricky P, who's back training and hopefully in a couple of weeks away, JJ. Then you've got Luke Thomas, then you've got Bertrand. Well, I think Bertrand you can say goodbye to at the end of the season because he hasn't played for that. He'd rather go and watch Chelsea play than be anywhere near our squad. So I think once we've got them 4, and then you've got Big Dan as well, if he's still about that can cover now and again. So I think Thomas next year, if they're all fit and firing, would be, like you say, would be good for a championship loan out.
Yeah, that's the key thing, right? Making sure that do Ricardo and JJ get through pre-season injury free? Do they look good in training? Do they look fit and strong? If the answer to that question is yes, and hopefully Lewis Brunt continues his development and he offers another option from left back from the academy, then there's no reason why we can't send Thomas out on loan. The obviously worry is that Ricardo or JJ come back for a month, 6 weeks, and then all of a sudden there's another huge injury. So we just got to pray on that one.
Yeah, Sondrax has just said Bertrand's been paid 500,000 per appearance. It's a lot of money per appearance, isn't it, to sit on a physio couch? Charlie, last question before you go. The FA Cup draw, I think it's tomorrow night on BBC One at 7 o'clock. There's a lot of replays. I think there's 5 out of the 12 games. Who would you fancy? Come on, Charlie. This is your time to shine. See if you can be a Mystic Meg and pick her out we're going to get.
Oh, I don't know. I'm just having a look at the teams left in it now.
It's got to be a home game, isn't it? It's got to be a home game to start off with, I would have thought. Yeah, it would be nice to get another quote unquote easier game, just because you want to get as far into the competition as possible before you draw your Manchester City or something like that. So, Fleetwood Town would always be nice. It's always nice for Jamie Vardy to link up there and kind of reconnect with his roots. Grimsby, they got a draw yesterday, so they could. They're playing Sheffield Wednesday, aren't they? Did they?
They played Luton.
Oh, Luton.
Sheffield Wednesday played Fleetwood. Yeah.
Oh, that's it. Yeah. But I want a home draw, like you say. I know some people in our chat group say, "Oh, I want one of the big boys to come down and play that." I don't. You want to get to the final, don't you? So you want to play the so-called lesser teams more than you play the bigger teams. So somebody in the Championship, maybe even Derby. Oh no, they play West Ham tomorrow night, don't they? Maybe even Derby. That would be a decent game, wouldn't it, Charlie? You'd enjoy that one, wouldn't you? Yeah.
No, that'd be great. Local rivalry. But it'd be interesting to see who we get. I mean, I don't really buy into wanting a big tie. We had that when back when we were in the Championship and League One. I was always looking out. I went to the Etihad to watch us play Manchester City in the replay. My 13th birthday, I watched Mark De Vries score a winner and beat Tottenham 3-2 in
the last minute. Yes, I remember
that, which was quality. So I mean they're the kind of glory days, I guess, when you're not in the Premier League, you're not playing these teams week in, week out, that you want that kind of alluring draw, probably because you don't really realistically think you're in with a chance of winning it anyway, so you may as well get that glamour tie. But for a team like Leicester, we've seen in 2021, obviously we're capable of going all the way. So for me, it's just as easy a games as possible right up until the last point.
It is like Tom's just said, Bristol City away, Nigel Pearson Derby. That would be. It'd be the Pearson Derby, wouldn't it? Leicester versus Bristol City. That'd be a good one. I'd rather have them at home, though. I'd rather have them at home. Right then, Charlie. Much appreciated, pal. Just one last thing. Where can everyone find? I know you mentioned it earlier. Where can everyone find you?
Yeah, so probably the easiest place to follow me for Leicester Ramblings would be Twitter. Handle is @CharlieJC93.
That's perfect. And what have you got planned this week? Are you working hard this week? Are you covering any football this week?
Well, obviously at Give Me Sport, we kind of cover, a variety of sports. It's mainly football and combat, sort of, boxing, UFC and wrestling. So as I was telling you off air, we're up late last night, kind of overseeing the Royal Rumble for the WWE event. But I'll be back to it tomorrow. I've got the rest of the day off now, so I put my feet up and then, crack on with all the sport next week.
Rightio, Charlie. Cheers, pal. Much appreciated. And you never know, I might see you down the ground one day.
Yeah, looking forward to it, mate.
Cheers, mate. Thanks a lot, Charlie. Be good. There you go. Charlie Carmichael from Give Me Sport and The Guardian. It's been much appreciated. You want them, I get them. That's 3 Foxes fans work in the media. Ben Jacobs, Callum Boyle, and now Charlie Carmichael. Absolutely fantastic to get their views from the other side of the other side of the papers, shall we say? I'm not sure. The other side of the TV, whatever you want to call it. But there you go. You want them, I'll get them. And I'll have someone next week as well. I'm not sure who it will be, but I'll get someone for you. You know what I'm like. But must have been, like I say, through to the FA Cup, 5th round, last 16, draws tomorrow night. Not sure who I want, as long as it's home draw. So it's ciao, ciao, adios, goodbye. Top of the morning to you. Come on, you foxes.
Thanks for watching Leicester Fan TV. Thanks to our sponsors, ADT Taxis, Everards, Pukka Pies, Pink Car Leasing, Leicester Riders, Hollogram, The Fox's Arms, Peter's Pizzeria, Hope Against Cancer, and Newby Co estate agents. Make sure to follow us on all of our social channels at Leicester Fan TV. Visit our website, leicesterfantv.com.